Alright, so now that I've moved over to the master branch, now I can show you exactly how it looked like. I'm not really sure if we want to get into this, but pretty much this is kind of like the app. So I'm using Mojave right now, or Mojave, however you pronounce it. Let me know in the description if you can. Essentially here I have the basic view controller. So let's actually start with the main storyboard. So essentially here in the main storyboard you have is a tab bar controller, which goes into two nav view controllers, and from that two nav controllers it brings you over to a specific view control house where you have secrets here, and then you have the passwords. So in here, these two actually collection views. So the actual view controller inside the view controller has its own collection views for both of these view controllers. And then obviously the first view controller, Days view controller, goes into a detailed view controller where it actually shows the notes. So keep in mind this app was actually created within 3 hours in the coffee shop. So it was a really simple app. And again, back to explaining the app, the reason why this app was called Going to Japan initially was primarily because it was just going to be an app for view only. But after a while, I kind of want to get more in depth with this app. I want to create more features for it because I've always wanted to create a note app, but the first note app I ever created was really simple. So moving on, this is the code for the view controller. This is also accessible on my GitHub if you want to see it, but pretty much it's some simple stuff. So setting delegate data source, making sure the collection views inset is actually a little bit lower, so it's not right at the edge of the nav controller, the nav bar, setting the background color. So light pink, there's no such thing as light pink in Swift. I actually had to create my own extension to UI color and creating a class variable called light pink that returns the color pretty much. Going back, pretty much that's it. And then there's a function called read.json. So like I said, this is like a read-only app to start off with. So it was a really simple read.json function. Pretty much what it does is that I have a JSON file and I parse that. That's pretty much what it really does. Appends it to an array so I could use it for collection views. And there's a notification here. Pretty much every day 9 a.m. it sends the user the notification that, hey, your node is available. Here's the password. You can type it in. If they forgot, or let's say the notification was lost, they can always just go to the password view controller, tap on it, and just paste it. And then this is just setting up the notifications here, just asking the user for authorizations when you just initialize the app. This is the actual function for adding notifications. So it takes in a couple parameters: the date, which is the day that you want it to ring, what the message is, which is the body, and the identifier. This should be unique, obviously. So for me, I set the identifier to a date, I believe. So data format. This is the format. So I had to format the date based on a string to an state format, so that the notification that I'm using, UN calendar notification, knows what kind of dates I'm trying to use. And then let's see. The identifier. I believe is a date. Yep, the identifier date. Pretty much I have a print if there's an error. Doing some triggers and requests. I'll get more into this later on. UN calendar notifications. It's probably gonna be a separate video if anything, but it's a really simple thing. It's just like basically all I'm really doing is creating a notification, giving it a kind of a component so it knows how to read it. And then this is just matching it with my date. Whoops. And then setting the request. This is the trigger. And then some other stuff. So I kind of do this. This is kind of my way of coding. I used to do it where I'll extend the actual view controller here to UI collection view, delegate, and the flow layout. But I kind of do it this way so I know that those methods are actually from there. So right here is a select item at. So I'm not gonna get in depth. Pretty much you select it, what it's gonna do. So here what it's really doing is checking the date. If it's not the time yet, it's gonna send you an alert, or the user the alert that it's not time. If not, then it'll either figure out if it's already entered, or if the password wasn't entered yet. If it isn't, send an alert view, or and then have the user enter the password. Over here, it's pretty much just setting the size for the layout of the cell. I'm actually trying to move as far away as possible from storyboard in my kind of like my journey in iOS. I'm trying to move away more from storyboard and towards more programmatic code in terms of visuals and front end for iOS. So that's the reason why I did that. I could really have easily just done it here with a constraint, click it, do it here, all that good stuff. So continuing on, same thing. The reason why I put it here is just so that I know where this function is coming from. So here I'm setting the number of items in that section. Pretty much is the array, days arrays count. The days array is basically the array of notes that I have with the date. Specifically, it's just the date, but it stores the notes as well. From here, I have a set for item in this path. So for those that don't know what this is, it's pretty much the function you use to tell iOS what cells to show in these cells. So like what cell, each cell, what to display basically. So I give it a unique identifier so that it knows which cell we want to use to produce all these cells in it. So using the QVisible cell with an identifier, we know which one to use. So if we have multiple table views, for example, in this situation, we had a password view controller and a days view controller. But usually this is more specific to the specific view controller. So it should be unique in that so that iOS knows which cell you're talking about. And I gave it some, our cells are actually custom. So it's a day collection view cell, which is on the top. And all it really is just a label. And it also stores whether or not the password was entered or not. So that's pretty much what that class is. Might have been a little bit too much for it, but you don't really need to create a custom cell. It's usually used for things that's more customized, so stuff that UI table view cell doesn't give you. Again, this is just a really brief overview. I'm not going to get too in depth into iOS. Just let me know in the comments if you want to know more about something specific. I'll try to make a video out of it. And again, I'm not an expert here. If you really just do like a really deep dark scrub on my profile, you'll know that I'm like really like an amateur in iOS to start off with. So here I have a cell. I'm setting the text to the date. So that's how you set the dates, 9-1, 9-2. Giving them each a background color. I called it mint green. Obviously it wasn't that green, that of a mint. Gave it border color. I felt like pastel had a better color with white. Right here I had .cg color because border color takes in the type of CG color, not UI color. Give it a width, radius, so that it has a nice little, rounded edge. And then here is how I hide the date if this day is not here yet. So pretty much just the same exact logic as we had before with the select cell index path. Same stuff, and then just return the cell. So this is all just configuration for the cell, and then returning it so that each, basically every index path, because they're all called day cell, tell them here, hey, this is what you want to put in, return it. So all this stuff. So extension to UI view controller. So what this does is UI view controller is something that Apple has. So when I give it date to string and string to date, basically if I have another view controller, for example, password view controller, I can just access the same functions here. This is actually more specific to just days view controller. I just separate some of the stuff because this is more like in the background, not in the front. It should be more hidden and not in front of the code. So here we have a authorized user. So this is where we do all the logic for checking out the password, making sure they're right. And as you can tell, it's a really simple one. Just make sure the strings are exactly the same. I could have probably done a little better with this one. Probably check with, making sure it's lowercase, uppercase, yada yada. There's a lot of different stuff I could have done. But it's really simple, just checking the string, making sure they're exactly the same. And then this is the alert message that you saw up top before a couple of times. This is pretty much where all the alert view pops up. It's a custom alert view pretty much. It's a little bit more complicated. I don't want to get too in depth with this. First video on my version 1. My next video is really just going to be more about version 2, how it came to be. But version 1 pretty much is, I'm just really showing you it, like what I have, right? So fake data, this is what I have. This is like a mock JSON. This is a JSON file. This is pretty much what it shows up. Pretty much simple stuff, not going to get in depth with it either. Here's the password view controller that we saw before. So for password view controller, same kind of stuff. So we have a custom cell, gave it a password label, a lot more simpler. Same thing, I didn't really need to do this. I could have just created my own collection view cell, could have dealt with that. Password array, this is where I store all the, basically the array. I was kind of lazy about it. So as you can tell, I have a function here again, it's exactly the same one from view controller. I could have made it into a global class. So it's all that, so I don't have, the same data. But again, you see that read JSON, setting the delegate and data source. This is just a collection view, knows that whatever we do here, to actually use those information. Same idea here. Give it an inset so it's not to the edge. Same with the background, setting it to mint green. So kind of the opposite. As you can tell, I just kind of like inverse each other for two different table view cells. The select item index path. Pretty much here is where I just put the password in it. So when you select the password, pretty much it's taking the text here, and then it's pasting it in your clipboard. So UI pasteboard is a clipboard that you have, and that's about it. Pretty much, and then show copy alert is right here. Pretty much, it's basically the alert. It's a pop-up that tells you, hey, you copied the password. What else is there? So size for index path, explained it before. Same thing, creates the size. Same thing, tells iOS the collection view, how many numbers, like how many cells you want to show up in that section. With collection views, you can have multiple sections, unlike table view where you can only have one. Well, you can have a couple of sections too. You just can't have a lot of columns. And then same idea here, set for item at index path. Pretty much tell it what you want to show, what you want to have, what information you want to have it, return it. That's pretty much it. So this is just a missing alert. So pretty much removing it from the view. I have a timer here. So basically when you click copy, it'll remove it after 3 seconds. And then right here, it's being called here. This alert is being called here at the timer. Believe that is it. Yes, we had one more thing actually, the day pass object. So when you set pass view controller or the view controller, I had this object called day pass object. So what this is from here, this file that I create a custom class. It has a date, password, letter, and an image path, and then pretty much initialize. So what this does is basically, when you saw read JSON right here, I append date pass object. So basically when you call it, you want to add in that type of object. It's kind of forcing the user, hey, you have to give me a date, you have to give me a password, letter, and image path. So I just created kind of an object, a custom object, so that I can do that a lot easier. So this was pretty much version 1. You just saw the demo at the beginning of the project. So in the next episode, I'm going to get into the changes of version 2. There's a lot of different changes, so it's not going to be a read-only app. So just like a little sneak peek, it's really just going to be more of a more user-friendly app. I'm kind of going to get in depth with like what I'm going to create, what's my idea for version 2, and maybe even get some of your ideas as to what I should be doing for version 2. Should I separate some features to version 3, things like that. So thanks for staying here for that long. This is like a really long video. I pretty much went through the whole thing, but yeah, you were there the whole time. But this is my first video series on Xcode and one of my projects. Thanks for listening and watching this whole series. Please let me know what you think. What I can improve on, things like that. Maybe I was speaking too fast or things like that. Also, make sure to give me some suggestions as to what to talk about. If anything here in this video confused you, please leave a comment below. I'll try my best to help you out. This project, aside from just being a documentation of my whole process, is also just so that I can interact with more people, whether you code or not, just to get your understanding, as to maybe just help me fundamentally learn more about Swift. So again, thank you for watching, and have a good one. And see you guys next time.